Okay, we're calling this installing TBN Plex version 5. The first time you run it, either from the command line or try to run the UI, it's going to walk you through this setup process. You need your Plex username and password the first time so that it can query the API and get some info like what server you're going to use, what clients you're going to use, stuff like that. Now you do make your own TBN Plex user because we support multi-users and track stuff like progress and play count and stuff like that for each user independent of Plex. So that's what we're doing here, is we're making our default user and we're setting that as our current user. And then you're going to pick what client you're going to use. You can always change this later. It builds the help table for you. The help table is so that if you do CLI commands, you can do question mark or -H and get a description of what that command does and how to use it. From there, it's going to build help tables, or I should say helper tables for your movies and your TV shows. That's to speed things up when you're actually using TBN Plex. If you're trying to get a list of a bunch of movies or something, for example, it's a lot quicker to query your own database than do a bunch of API calls. And we are avoiding doing anything in the Plex database because we don't want to risk corrupting that or causing problems there. So that's why we have our own database for a few things. Nothing fancy. Anyway, this will take a few minutes from here. Once that's done, I will resume the commentary and we'll pick up from where it left off. Alright, so setup is completed. As you can see, once it's done, it actually opens the UI when you run the UI. From there, all your options should work. Like you're now playing, nothing's playing, so you get a picture of my dog. Let's go to our client here. Up next, Peaky Blinders. Start next program. You can see it's playing in the background with subtitles on. If you refresh, what you can do with hitting the home button if you're at home, you'll see it'll tell you now that something's playing, where you're at, what's up next, your play mode. You can change your play mode by clicking on the play mode. These are your default play modes. Pretty straightforward. We did bring music television back with MTV mode. No reality TV, just music videos. So as you can see, that works well. Some of the other things you can do here, I'm going to stop that so we don't get DMCA'd, so you can look at your TV shows and your movies. This genre list is pulled dynamically based on the content in your library, so that's automatically generated for you. But you can click on the genre, you can click on the TV show, it gets you the poster, the blurb about it, what's up next from that show, how many times you've watched the show overall. That's not the episode, that's the overall show. From here, you can easily create your wildcard show, add it to a block, add it as a favorite, set it up next, play it now. So you got that going for you. You can do the same with movies. The only real difference here in the buttons you'll see is that you cannot set it as a wildcard or your next wildcard, because TV shows, well, technically a movie could be a wildcard, but it's not designed to have it set up that way. We have no blocks. The block packages are what I would call the heart of our creation originally. This was to allow you to create custom blocks of content where you could So we've added this Saturday block. The Saturday block has Westworld in it. Let's add to that block Deadwood. You can see Deadwood's now in it. We'll do Godless in it. And it's basically turning into the Western themed block. And we'll finish off with the best Western TV show ever, Firefly. Alright, so that's how easy it is to add a block and add to a block. These are buttons that you can click on to actually get the details for that specific item, if you're so inclined. You can look at, we do build a list of 5 recommended TV shows and movies for you. This is based on what is watched most in your library, and it gets similar items. So these are the recommended movies, these are the recommended TV shows, and the same thing, these are buttons that you can click on and you can get to the details of that item if you don't know much about it. You can get back with the recommended button, and you can see the movie side is also buttons. So you got that going for you. Now there's a bunch of settings hitting in here at the bottom. I have no Hue Lights built, so of course that's blank. Let me show you how you do that. So you have your terminal here, Python my TBN underscore Hue commands get lights. I think it's that. It is not that. Let me look up what my Hue Bridge IP is real quick. That's not what I want. Oh, 126, okay. There we go. And the other one you want to run is get groups. Alright, so from there your Hue integration is pretty much ready to go. We'll run the UI again, we'll go to the Hue Light section, and boom, you got all the Hue Lights in here. You got the actions that you can do. Turn it on, change the color. You can do that on fade or instant. It's pretty simple. It's not really designed to control your Hue Lights. Really what it's designed for is, if you go under webhook settings, so you can do webhook color effects. We'll turn that on, or webhook light effects. So what that does is, when it gets a play for your client and user, it's going to, whatever your light client is, it's going to fade it to 20. For your on stop, it's going to fade it up to 200. Same on pause, and on resume, it'll fade it back down to 20. We have no light clients. Let's add a light client. There you go. So now anytime the light client game PC with the user dude gets an action, the desk lights are going to do these actions. That's how that works. We'll turn the color effects on, add a color genre. Oops. So this is a shortcut. This yellow one is actually a shortcut to get back home, like this button. And my screen capture puts my mouse a little bit off, so it kind of sucks. Accidentally, I hit that sometimes. Anyway, favorite, green. And let's add another one. Oops. I should probably take that shortcut out. I don't really ever use it. Horror, red. So as you can see, it also puts the color behind the item so that you know easily what color it will change your lights to. Oh, and that black needs to be a little darker. Maybe bold that. Note to self. Okay. Let's turn that off. I don't really want the color effects, but I do want the light effects on. So some other options you got in here. There's voice commands. It's pretty straightforward. If you have the required library installed speech recognition, you will see this voice command button. And you have start next program. It should start the next program. Watch movie trimmers. Yeah. You won't get that TTS, that's custom, sorry. I'm still working on packaging that in. You can mute. You'll see it puts it to unmute, so you know that you're muted or unmuted. You might have noticed when I did the voice commands, it automatically muted and unmuted the volume. That's for in case you're in a location where your volume will overpower your microphone. There is a setting for that. That's voice command pre-mute. It's on by default. You can turn it off. Boom, it's that easy. Now there is another voice command option here, which is always listening. Let's turn that on. And the way that works is you can start listening. What's on TV? Computer, what's on TV? Computer, where are we at? I still need to work on a good way so that you know when it's in an active listening pass. Computer, what's on TV? You'll notice it's not quite up to the Alexa, Google Now standards. I'm still working on.
I'm not sure.
Hey, zip it you. But still a work in progress. We're getting there on it. You can stop listening with stop listening. You might see some output in here. So some other options you have. I walked you through the. Let's turn that off. I'm going to leave the pre-mute on. Okay, so you got random background and UI. What that does is, if you remember back in the day with Plex, when you went to movies or TV shows, it would show you these cool little backgrounds that are kind of obscured by buttons and stuff here. So we kind of brought that back in a bad way. It does slow the UI down a little bit since it's looking up random backgrounds every time. So I have that off by default. You can turn it on if you like it. You have in your play settings a bunch of options. I recommend resume status being on. That will resume your content from where you left off instead of from the beginning. You could also use random start. Random start will start the program at a random position within the first fifth of the program to make it feel like the old school channel watching experience. Automatic subtitles will automatically turn subtitles on for foreign language audio programs, so you don't have to go into your Plex and do that. It'll do that automatically for you. Commercial injection, that's if you have a commercials library, it will inject one commercial in between programs. Pre-roll injection is pretty similar. If you have a pre-roll library, it will inject pre-rolls before your content from that library. Dual client mode lets you watch content on 2 clients simultaneously. So if you want to have like upstairs and downstairs or whatever watching the same thing at the same time, you could easily do that. Favorites mode picks content from your favorites instead of your entire library. That's so if you have a really big library with a bunch of shit you don't want to watch all the time, you can limit it down to the subset of favorites that you have for a more pleasurable experience or whatever. Wildcard, we're going to turn that on. You notice you get a little, if you have windowed, you'll get a warning that you have no wildcard specified. See, it says none. let's go ahead and set a wildcard show. We will do The Big Bang Theory, set wildcard show. And let's go to TV shows, drama, copper. We'll set this as the next wildcard show. So if you go back to play settings, you'll see the wildcard show instead of none is now The Big Bang Theory, and this option appeared for the next wildcard show. The idea behind that is anytime when your wildcard show, when it plays and it gets to the end of this, what you have of that show, right? You've watched all of it. Instead of restarting back from the beginning, it goes, oh, axe that is the wildcard show. This becomes the wildcard show, and it will start with the first episode or wherever you left off in that program. So that's the idea behind that. The wildcard show is more heavily weighted than, say, just TV shows or movies, so to speak. So the idea is, like, you'll still get a lot of movies and TV shows, but it's going to pick the wildcard show also to help you work through that show. That's the idea behind it. It's like what you're working through right now versus your other content. In your server settings, alright, here's how the alt server part works. Add alt server, you put in your Plex username and password so it can query the API. You will get a choice to pick your alternate server. Let's do this one. Boom, done. You relaunch your UI. And now if you look at server settings, you have your server, your alternate server. It's actually disabled. Let's turn that on. We're going to put it to the primary. So there you go. That's how the alternate server works. It'll auto failover. If this one goes down, it'll automatically switch to your alternate. If that one goes down, it'll check and it'll try to auto switch back. You can switch back and forth like that. It's that easy. And while I'm at it, this use local authentication, but that is so you don't have to type your Plex username and password or use a token. To use that, which it's on by default, you'll need to use the use local authentication, or what? See, the setting's called allow access without authentication in your Plex settings. So keep that in mind. I just specify the client IP, this one, for what's running my controller, and you don't have to worry about any of that other stuff. Anyway, there you go. Back to the regular video. Alright, so there's also a schedule mechanism that's fairly robust here. You can do any command you want. Uh, 19 a.m. today. Of course, you will need to be running the schedule service on Windows for that to work. Let's put that in the schedule. So about 9:19 we should get some commercials playing in the background here. You can also look at your queue. I did the Hue Light, I showed you the voice commands. Scrabble, that's just basically similar to skip that, only it sends a Scrabble instead, which will advance your series progress and all that kind of fun stuff that happens behind the scenes. CLI command, this is where you can do any of our command line commands, and you will get the output here. So there you go, look, commercial break, it's running. It's doing a Craig Shoemaker joke that's in my library. It even shows you the progress if you have the window open. That's because you can theoretically cancel out of those, but whatever. So, there you go. That is setting up and using TBN Plex. Adding blocks, adding favorites, setting wildcard shows, basically all the options that you can do from the UI. I hope that helped. I will get that alt server thing figured out because that should work. Anyway, thanks for watching. Have a good one.